concerts, especially Stefan Merler, remarkable Beethoven pianist from Vienna. He offered to come this year, but it would have been about a 2-day stay on an itinerary that went from Vienna to Peru to Jewel to Vienna. There's not a direct flight from Peru to Jewel. So this year we're having our students play instead. And one of our students is working for the library in Story City, and she said, you know, we have a Steinway piano over here. I said, what? They have a beautiful piano, a beautiful hall. So Saturday night at 7 o'clock, free admission. 6 of our most accomplished students are playing, and I know what they're going to sound like. A long time ago, we discovered the difference between playing the piano and making music, and speaking it, and singing it, making your own. I expect I'll be crying a lot. Good to see you. Thank you.
So that is one of 3 options for your Saturday evening. Before I get into any more announcements, I want to introduce someone to you. Most of you don't remember her, but many of you remember Seraphim. Before there was Seraphim, back in the days when Dwayne had hair, and we were 14 or 15 or 16, thereabouts, this church had an interpretive choir. And that interpretive choir during worship shared movement, dance. And I was part of it, but I got to be a tree. Okay, I can do this really, really well. But the young woman who made that group is with us today. And she's here for a sad occasion. We're laying 2 of her sisters to rest today. But I wanted you to know that back in the day, Patty Weatherman graced this church with her movement and with her personality and with herself. And I'm still here to remember that. So if you get a chance today to greet her in fellowship or in the receiving line after worship, please do so, because for years she was, and her sisters were all fixtures in this place, and we're just glad to have them back, and I'm crying now. So I'm so happy you're here, Patty.
At least you're not making a dance.
I can still do a great job of water. The one that when I'm referring to me being a tree, we were doing a song that was Mary's song, and Patty was Mary, and Kay McElveen or Kay Rule was also a part of it, and we stood up here doing this. And Patty got to do beautiful ballet steps and interpretive stuff. I will never forget that. And we also did a beautiful interpretation of the Passion that we presented at several different churches. It was pretty incredible. So, now that I've done that, today after worship there's fellowship time. There is also a shower being held down here. Al and Brenda Robinson's granddaughter, Alicia and Jared, have adopted a little girl, and they're having a shower for her this afternoon. So you are all invited to that if you'd like to attend. And I would ask whoever is the last person out today to make sure the elevator stays on, because they need that for the shower. Tuesday evening, there is a presentation at the Bethesda Church in Jewel on human trafficking, and I would lift that up for your consideration, as that is something that has become an issue not just in the nation, but in the state of Iowa. We know that I-80 is one of the main avenues for human trafficking, and with I-35 being just off of I-80, it's happening right around us. So if you're available Tuesday night and want to, it's a free presentation from someone with some really good credentials. Saturday, along with recital. We'll be celebrating Mary Harms's 100th birthday at the Elks Club. Supper is at 5, and then there will be other events following. If you plan to attend supper, please respond fairly quickly, I would guess, to Randy at the number listed in your bulletin. If you're just going to say hi to Mary, you don't need to RSVP. And also on Saturday, there's a benefit meal for Tim Off at the Iowa Falls UCC. Tim has his church membership here. His family has been in the Iowa Falls UCC for generations, and that church is holding this benefit for him. For those of you who don't know, we've been lifting Tim up in our prayers for about a month. He had a malignant tumor in his heart, which is so rare that the doctors at Mayo Clinic have not performed enough of these to give the family a whole lot of hope when they started. But it has been successful. He is doing better. And so if you'd like to attend that meal, it's drive-through chili and cinnamon roll, so good for this time of year. Then if you haven't had enough meals for the week, next Sunday after worship, head up to the Methodist Church for their drive-through ham ball dinner. Tis the season for church meals. There's probably one every weekend if you look around. Then on October 5th, it's World Communion Sunday, and we'll be marking that with a special service. Here we have some special things planned this year along with communion. And that Sunday there's no fellowship time here because we invite you to come over to the park where there will be a free lunch and activities for the Alden Fall Festival. Our turkey supper is coming up. Janann, do you have anything you want to say about that?
I have started the sheet going around, I think it's what, 4 weeks from today, maybe, 4 or 5, I don't know what it is, but
Oh, okay.
it's going around, yep.
Okay, so this is your first chance to sign up. Sign up often, sign up often, sign up often. And get ready for the fun that turkey supper always is. We lift up for you in our prayers today, the family and friends of Russell Kaplan. Russell passed away last Saturday, and we didn't know it to announce it in worship last Sunday. And his service was held yesterday at Searles Funeral Home in Iowa Falls. He's buried in the Alden Cemetery. And Russ, at 94, was the oldest male in our church when he passed, and he's survived by his wife Arlene, nieces and nephews, and relatives. So please keep Arlene and the family in your prayers. I would also lift up for you Janet Beery from the Jewel Church. She has a brother Gerald who lives with her. Gerald has been in the hospital this week and is going to be in need of assistance beyond what Janet can do. So they're in the process right now of looking at what the options are for Gerald. And of course, I would lift up Patty and her family who are with us today. Patty's older sisters have passed away, one in 2018 and the other one just in August, and we're having a service of committal today at the cemetery following worship. So know that we've been lifting you up in our prayers and will continue to do so. Those are the announcements that I have this week. If anybody has anything else today?
I do.
Okay.
My dad's having open heart tomorrow morning, so I just asked for prayers for his surgery.
Okay, and where's that happening?
Mercy Des Moines.
Okay, definitely, we'll keep him in our prayers. You said your dad, right?
Yep.
All right, kiddo, and Mercy. Any other announcements?
you for your love. May they bring your healing and light to those who need the balm of Gilead. Amen.
And the Lord, as we gather here today, we're grateful for the blessing of this beautiful September day, for weather that invites us to be outside and to see the beauty of our creation and feel your presence all around us. May we be ever grateful for the blessings that you give us, and may we also be sparked to pass on those blessings to others who may not be as fortunate as we are. Help us, Lord, to remember the poor, those who are sick, those who have no homes, or who struggle to maintain a home. Help us to be the ones who try to make a difference for your children in this world. Lord, on this day we especially ask your blessing for Russ Kaplan as he enters your rest, and for his family as they live without him. We ask your blessing for Phyllis and for Barbara and for Patty and all her family as they lay their sister, their aunt, their friends to rest. Be with Tim as he heals from his surgery. Be with John as he enters surgery, and be with Janet and Gerald as they make plans for a new normal in their lives. And Lord, be with each one of us as we lift up to you those things which are closest to our own hearts, that we may have trouble finding words for, but we know that you hear. Be our balm, God. In all our trials, in all our troubles, we know we can turn to you, and you hear us. Even as you hear us pray this prayer that Jesus taught us, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Okay, back in July, I preached the first part of a sermon that was originally written by Barbara Brown Taylor, called All the Marys. And in that portion of the sermon, we mainly dealt with the story of Mary and Martha, which is depicted in the second window on this side. Mary, who sat at Jesus' feet and listened, while Martha was busy preparing the meal. And we talked about how in the scriptures that story placed, well, you'll hear it in the sermon, but the story itself happened, but the place that we assume that it happened isn't where it happened. Okay. The story we're going to talk about today is taken from John chapter 11, one of the most quoted chapters of the Gospel of John. And again, it deals with Mary, and in the Bible that we read, Mary and Martha and Lazarus. I'm going to read it to you the way our Bible reads it, and then you're going to hear it the way that it was originally written. Got your interest up, I hope? Chapter 11, verses 1 through 6, and then going on from 17 through 27. Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. It was her brother Lazarus who was ill. So it is for God's glory, so that the Son of Man may be glorified through it. Accordingly, though Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, after having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Going to verse 17. When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them about their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, while Mary stayed at home. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that God will give you whatever you ask of him." And Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said back to him, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." And then Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Martha, do you believe this?" And she said to him, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one coming into the world." Here ends the reading of these words of Scripture. May you and I be blessed in hearing them and in hearing the tale that follows, which is true. Amen. Would you pray with me, please? God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of the hearts of Barbara Brown Taylor and Libby and myself be acceptable in your sight, my rock, my tower, and my redeemer. Amen. Okay, so we talked about the first part of the message and about the scripture passage that the message dealt with, and we learned a lesson about biblical scholarship, research, editing, and what can happen when the old documents are uncovered. So, we've always been taught, and raise your hand if this is true, that Mary and Martha and Lazarus were from Bethany, right? Everybody agrees on that, except that Bethany is in the opposite direction from where Jesus was headed when this story takes place. A little weird, but not impossible. Next, upon closer reading of the scripture, we read, "A woman named Martha welcomed him into her home." No big deal, right? We know lots of women that own their own homes. Except, in Jesus' time, a woman couldn't own a home if she had any male relative. Brother, cousin, uncle, husband, even a son. Any of them could own a home, but the only way a woman could own a home was if she was alone or with a sister. Okay, so what we figured out is that this Mary and Martha are probably not, well, certainly not, the same Mary and Martha that we're reading about today. These are two completely different stories about two completely different sets of people. That's what we learned in the first part of this message. Today, we read in chapter 11 that Mary and Martha and Lazarus are from Bethany. And this is where the story is either going to get really depending on your take. If you'll remember, we learned about a young biblical scholar who was doing research on her master's degree, and her advisor asked her to look at some of the earliest documents that we have of the Gospel of John, which have recently become available in digitized form. And so she looked at Papyrus 66, which is the oldest and the most complete text of the Gospel of John. It was written about the year 200. And she read the first sentence, which you just heard me read, right? In Greek it says, "Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary, and his sister Mary." Did you pick up the difference? That's not what our Bible says. Our Bible says, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. And yet, the oldest known manuscript of this gospel clearly says, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and his sister Mary. What? How can that be? Well, the researcher discovered that the text had been changed. In Greek, the name Mary contains the vowel iota. Okay? And as she studied the document, she discovered that the editor had changed the I to a beta. Not too hard to do. And not just in one place. They've gone over the original handwriting and changed the second Mary to Martha all the way through. All the way through the document. And not only that, they've changed the way that it comes out in English. They've changed the word his in every phrase to her, so that it became Mary and her sister Martha instead of the original Mary and his sister Mary. That's really weird. And what's even weirder is that when Libby went through the entire manuscript, she discovered not only had he changed every single reference from Mary to Martha, every single sister is changed to the plural sisters. That's some heavy editing. Pretty astonishing discovery. So astonishing that when the Harvard Divinity School found out about this woman's research, they wrote it up in the Harvard Theological Review, which is one of the most respected publications of its type in the world. And since then, it's been taken up by the Nestle Aland Translation Committee of the Greek New Testament. Those are the people who are in charge of what's in the Bible that you read. They are some of the most, I'd say, intelligent, well-versed, well-educated people in the entire world about the Greek Bible. And they studied this document, and guess what they said? Well, we might need to change something here. That's radical. And it's happening right now. See, this discovery was made just a few years ago, and it's only been in the hands of these people for a few years, and they're still debating whether they're going to include in the Gospel of John an extended footnote that would appear in study Bibles, whether they're going to change the text of the Gospel of John. That hasn't been done for a long time, kids. And we're not going to know about it until the next revised standard edition of the Bible comes out. Okay. So there's that. Now you say, well, but that's just one copy. How do they know which one's right? Good question. Here's the rest of the story. Going on with her research, Libby looked at other documents from the same era as the Gospel of John. And one of the things that she found was in the writings of Tertullian. Now, I don't know if you've heard of Tertullian or not, it's not a common name. But Tertullian was one of the ancient church fathers, who, by the way, hated women. And he actually wrote a commentary on this passage of John 11. And he's writing around the year 200, the same time as Papyrus 66 was written. So, what Tertullian writes in his commentary is Mary confessing him, Jesus, to be the Son of God. Uh-oh. The passage I read to you just a little bit ago from the Revised Standard Edition of the Bible says Martha confessed that. Martha said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask of him. And Jesus said to Martha, your brother will rise again. And Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. And then Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life, one of the most important lines in the whole Gospel of John. And he said, do you believe this, Martha? And she said to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the one who's come into the world. Tertullian says Mary. There's no Martha in Tertullian's document. No Martha, just Mary. So, did Tertullian's copy of John only have Mary? It didn't have any of this stuff going on. So you say, okay, all right, we'll start thinking maybe this is right, but I need a little bit more evidence. So how about that passage that starts with the story about how Martha runs out to meet Jesus, but Mary's so upset that she stays home? There's another twist. There's a document from the 4th century. It's the diary of a person named Egeria, who was a pilgrim to the Holy Land, and her diary still exists. It's among the church's oldest relics. And she writes about her pilgrimage group going to the church, here it comes, in the place where Mary, the sister of Lazarus, ran out to meet the Lord. Mary, not Martha. Mary, the sister of Lazarus. Do you see a pattern here? Tertullian doesn't mention Martha. Egeria's diary, there's no Martha. In both of these ancient sources, the story is a story of Mary. John 11 is about Lazarus and one sister, Mary. So why would this guy go to all the trouble of changing the names, changing all of the pronouns? Why would he do that? Well, maybe he just didn't like John's version of the story. Maybe he wanted it to match the story in Luke. Who knew? Maybe. Or not. Because if you'll remember, in the 4th century, there was this little thing where they took documents that they didn't like and got rid of them, those Dead Sea Scrolls, pesky Dead Sea Scrolls. And among those was the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. I'm going to go back to Barbara Brown Taylor's text now. Get ready for some big words. That little text from John 11 that I just read to you is one of 2 Christological confessions in the gospel. Now, I said big words. A Christological confession is when somebody acknowledges that Jesus is Lord, that Jesus is the Son of God, that he is the Messiah. Okay, there's 2 of them. One of those confessions happens 3 times. It happens in Matthew, it happens in Mark, and it happens in Luke. Anybody remember who made that Christological confession? Anybody hazard a guess? It was a guy named Peter. You all know Peter, the rock. When he made that confession, Jesus looked at him and said, Peter, you are the rock upon which I will build my church. Peter, the one whose future followers live in a little place called the Vatican, and now we have a new one called Pope Leo. Big deal. It's a big deal that Peter was the one who made that confession. The other Christological confession is in the book of John. And until this point, it's belonged to a minor character named Martha. We didn't even know who she was. Jesus raises her brother from the dead, they have a conversation, she says, yes, I believe that you are the Christ, yada, yada, yada. Pretty much the same as what Peter said. Except, Martha just disappears then. Unimportant, unremembered. Why did that happen? Well, if it's Mary, as research is beginning to show, the Mary who shows up in John 11 is not just any old Mary. Not just one of all the Marys. It's Mary Magdalene. Can it be that the other Christological confession in the New Testament comes from the voice of Mary Magdalene? That the Gospel of John gives the most important statement in the entire New Testament, not to Peter, not to a man, but to a woman. A really important woman who happens to show up later as the first witness to the resurrection, shown in the last window on that side of the church. Mary Magdalene. You see how these 2 stories work together logically? In John 11, Lazarus is raised from the dead, and who's there? Mary Magdalene. At that resurrection, she confesses that Jesus is indeed the Son of God, and that she knows that God will do whatever Jesus asks. And then just 10 chapters further, in the Gospel of John, who's the person at the grave? Who's the person who is the first witness to the resurrection? She recognizes him when he says her name. It's Mary Magdalene. Now, before someone says, wait a minute, I thought the Magdalene part meant that she was from Magdala, a town. Well, that's the last piece of this little bit of biblical scholarship I want to share with you this morning. There's always been a debate about where Mary Magdalene was from. A lot of people, especially if you've been to the Holy Land, anybody here been to the Holy Land? Well, if you go to the Holy Land, they're probably going to take you to this little church that's right on the Sea of Galilee, and it's the Church of Mary Magdalene. And they will tell you, this is the place that Mary Magdalene's from. Except there's a problem with that too, because that village wasn't called Magdala in the 1st century. There's no way that that's where Mary's from. Nobody's quite sure where that village would be if there was a village called Magdala. It didn't exist then. So instead of Mary being from this handy little fishing village, there's evidence to suggest that she was from somewhere else. Anybody want to take a guess where she probably is from? One, how much have you been paying attention to the story? Bethany, that's right. Mary Magdalene from Bethany. So why are they calling her Magdalene? Because it's not Mary from Magdala. Magdalene is a title. In Aramaic, the language that Jesus and his disciples spoke, the word Magdala means tower. That makes a whole big difference in the picture. In the Synoptics, Jesus and Peter have a discussion, and in that discussion, Peter utters the Christological confession, and as a result, Jesus says, Peter, you are the rock. In the Gospel of John, Mary and Jesus have a conversation. Mary utters the Christological confession, and she comes to be known as Mary, the Tower. Between these two confessions, are we looking at an argument in the early church? Peter the rock, Mary the tower. There's a reason that they got rid of the gospel of Mary of Magdalene. Mary Magdalene. Because in that gospel, there's a fight between Peter and Mary. And it's recorded. I read it. It's in a book that I own. Mary the tower. But the John account was changed. And it was changed sometime after this woman went to the Holy Land in 400, that time period keeps coming. All those years ago, Mary uttered the words, "Yes, Lord, I believe you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who is coming into the world." And here, Barbara Brown Taylor inserts a personal comment, and at Jewel, when I read it, I started crying, and I may do that here because it really hits home for me, too. When Libby told me of her research and the story of the confession, we were sitting at a Starbucks in Alexandria, Virginia. I started to cry and I couldn't stop. She had just told me a story that I had always intuited existed. When she told me the pieces and how they all fit together, as soon as she said, "Mary the tower," I said, I know this to be true. This is the truest thing I have ever heard about the gospel. It's the end of her quote, and I'm going to add to that. I believe it too. Mary is indeed the tower of faith. Our faith is the faith of that woman who would become the first person to announce the resurrection. Mary the witness, Mary the tower. And she's been obscured from us. She's been hidden from us for nearly 2,000 years. This isn't a Dan Brown novel. I'm looking at my kids right now. This is the Nestle Aland Translation Committee for the Greek New Testament. This is the Harvard Theological Review. This is some of the best, most cutting-edge historical research in the world. And you and I are living in the moment of the most radical transformation of the understanding of the gospel accounts of who Jesus is and who holds authority. It's an amazing story. It's cause for celebration, and I'm sure that we're all going to celebrate all the Marys, right? Just don't mix them up. We got Mary and Martha, they're wonderful, both of them, wonderful women. We've got Mary, not Mary of Magdala, Mary the Tower. You can take that and you can hold it in your heart. But now, I have another question. Ready? What if that story of Mary hadn't been hidden? What if we'd known about Mary the Tower all along? What kind of Christianity would we have if our faith hadn't only been based on Peter the rock, and upon this rock I will build my church? What if we'd always known, Mary, you are the tower, and by this tower we will stand? Can you imagine? Can you imagine the possibility? The opening that's before us, never visible to our ancestors. They had no knowledge of this for over a millennium. What does a church that recognizes Mary the Tower look like? And what in the world would that kind of tower relationships, so that you may live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger at injustice and oppression and the exploitation of people, so that you may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer pain, rejection, hunger, and war, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and to turn their pain to joy. And may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in the world, so that you can do what others claim cannot be done, to bring justice and kindness to all of God's children. Amen.